why do you need a website in the first place? You know, I still get in 2017 people coming to me and saying, look, you know, we get all of our business from referrals. We don't really need a website. Well, I'm going to say to you that really it's an essential part of your marketing mix. Um, and I could, you know, talk all day about the importance of a website. I'm just going to give you three reasons why it's essential. So um, the first one would be related to referrals. So what I like to say is that your website seals the deal with referrals. And what I mean by that is that you know, think of the scenario, one of your clients talking to one of their, you know, friends who's also got a business, they're looking for an accountant and they recommend you. What's the first thing that person is going to do? They're going to put your name into Google and check out your website. Then they're going to do some due diligence. You know, that is the very kind of practical and usual scenario. So just for that reason, you know, most of your business is going to come from referrals, and the website plays a really important role in that. Second reason is that, you know, all your business doesn't have to just come from referrals. Marketing and particularly online marketing can be an amazing channel to get more leads. And I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can do that later on in this webinar, and especially in the other two webinars in the series. But you know, one example I'm going to give of the power of the internet to bring more business to you is search engines like Google. Google processes 40,000 searches every second. In other words, 3.5 billion searches a day. Now, of course, you know that they're not all for accountants and bookkeepers. That's for certain. But a proportion of those are, and a proportion of those are people searching in your area. You know, without a website, you don't really have an online presence. And the final reason why I think you need a website is for existing clients. Some of the best firms that we've worked with, some of our clients, they use their websites as a hub to work with their clients. You know, sharing documents, sharing content, and that becomes a really important part of their kind of relationship with their clients and helps them retain them. So hopefully there's, you know, three real important reasons why you need a website. I hope that, you know, for anyone who's unconvinced, and there still are people, that will kind of go some way to convincing you. So let's jump in and start having a look at the anatomy of the site. And I'm going to begin with, you know, what kind of most people think is like the first page on a website, the home page. Now, the first thing to say about the home page, although it's going to be the page on your site that gets the most traffic, don't put too much focus on your home page. So in some ways it's your most important page, but another way to look at it is that most of your traffic will come from other pages. So for example, on the Bizink website, 29% of our traffic goes to the home page, but that means that obviously 71% is going to other pages. And the reason why I say this is that I've seen some firms put a huge amount of emphasis into their home page and then not really think about the other pages in their site. So, you know, if you think about it in that way, you know, maybe a third of the traffic into the home page, so very important, put effort into it, but don't neglect the other pages. The other thing I think you've got to do on your home page is not try and do everything. You know, don't try and tell the whole story about your firm and force too much content onto the home page. Because really all we're trying to do, really what we're trying to do with the whole website is build some trust and credibility. Because that's why people choose you over other firms, is, you know, that they trust you, they think you're an authority. That's the, you know, that's the key, you know, key thing that we're trying to build in marketing our firms, and that takes time, right? So the key on the homepage is to look at it as its purpose is to engage a visitor so that they dig deeper and go further into your website. So, you know, there's lots of different things you can put on your homepage. Obviously, like an image. You can have, content about yourself. That, to me, the main reason is to get people and pull them into the site and engage them. But there's one thing that you will want on your homepage and actually right throughout your website, and that's a call to action. So that's a sort of a bit of a website jargon term, but basically all it means is it's something on the web page that encourages the visitor to do something. So really common examples that you would know would be things like buy now button, a button saying download our free ebook, or a form, complete a form on the website. They're all calls to action, so to turn someone from just someone browsing your website to taking action and getting in touch. And particularly on the homepage and actually right throughout the website, it's really important to have really clear calls to action on your website, because people are lazy online. They don't. They're looking for a quick fix. They're not going to spend ages looking around your website, and if they have to dig around to find things like your contact details, you stand a very high chance of losing them, and they'll just go somewhere else. Something I always like to say to clients is, your competitors are only a click away. Somebody's researching accountants in your area. They've potentially got your site open and a whole bunch of other tabs open with your competitors in there. So make it really easy for people to take the actions that you want. So for example, that would mean things like having a phone number on every page. I think that's a bare minimum. Maybe a book a meeting button, or even something like live chat, which we'll take a look at. We'll take a look at that later. So it's making it really easy for people to get in touch, and also making it giving people different ways to get in touch. Some people like phone, some people like email, some people like live chat. That different ways you're going to kind of cast your net a little bit wider on your website. So I'm just going to jump onto the next one. This is a real example from one of Bizink's clients who've got some really good calls to action on their website. They've got, if I just click in here, you can see they've got a really good contact us button. They've got their phone number there. They've got a free phone number, and they have a regular phone number as well. Make an appointment, and that launches a meeting booking app. We'll talk about those in a little bit. And they have this form here as well. So really covering all the bases in terms of ways for somebody to get in touch. And you'd hope, if someone's interested, they've made it really easy for them by doing that. So moving on to what's really the second most important part of your the second most important page of your website would be your about or your team page. Sometimes these are 2 pages, sometimes they're 1. Now, we did some research into our clients' web stats, and we found that the team page was the second most viewed page on basically 90% of our clients. It was the second most viewed page after the home page. Now, what that tells me is that people want to see you. They want to see your team. It's true in any form of business that people buy from people. People love that human element, and so the more you can humanize and personalize your website, the better. And that's what a team page can do. You're also going to want to put some information about you and your firm in there. You're going to want to keep that really simple and short, and that's going to be something that is going to be a theme right throughout the webinar. Is that you don't want too much information on your website. You're only really going to sell to people when you talk to them. It's not an e-commerce business like Amazon.com where people are just going to come in and make an impulse buy. To choose a new accountant, they're going to think about that. They're going to take a bit of time, and that means a conversation with you, at minimum on the phone, more likely in person. So the website really, in terms of that aspect is about getting them to get in touch with you, and too much content can get in the way of that. So on your about page, keep it really simple, and in a funny way, although it's about you, you actually should make it about your clients, in the sense that people first of all are only interested in what's in it for them. So they're not really bothered about the kind of a long history of your firm, and sort of these mission statements and things like that. They just really want to know if they work with you, what's in it for them. So that's what I would kind of make your about page about, and really avoid that kind of what I call marketing language. So that kind of hyperbole type language. Try and get rid of all the superlatives, things like we are the leading firm, or we are the best, or we're renowned. I see that on lots of firms' websites, and not only is it probably not true, you can't back that stuff up, and it just seems like marketing language which switches people off. So the best way to do that stuff really is through case studies and testimonials. And that's really the best way that you can sell yourself, is to show outcomes that you've got for real businesses. So just moving on to the the team page. This is an example from a firm in the US, one of Bizink's clients, and like I said, you could have photos of your team. These guys have taken it one step further and got these caricatures created, which I think are really great. It brings some personality to the website, and it's a bit of a point of difference. So I'm not suggesting you all go out and get caricatures, but getting a professional photographer in and getting some really nice images taken. Maybe at the same time get some photos taken of the whole team. That can be something that creates a really nice page. And given that we know it's going to be your second most viewed page, it's one to put some time into. Okay, so moving on, the services page. Now, on some websites, this is a whole section, and I'm sure this might be true to some of you listening today, and hopefully I don't kind of offend you with what I'm saying, is that if you've got lots and lots of pages there, I think they're a real turn off to potential clients on your website. I really think that your services page should just be one page, maybe a couple, perhaps if you have like business clients and individual clients, but certainly keep it really, really simple. Rather than having complex pages that are full of kind of technical descriptions of what you do. And the reason for that is that most of your prospects, most business owners, don't actually know what they need from you. They might know they want an accountant, but the things that you can really help them with that are going to be really valuable to them are things they don't know. And I'm sure you can all relate to that. It's when you have that meeting with the client, you do that discovery bit and find out what their problems are, that you can really come up with some things that help them. It's not like I mentioned before, it's not like Amazon.com that someone's going to come along and go, okay, these guys do tax planning, tick, I'll put that in the basket. Oh, great, they do, cash flow or whatever. It doesn't work like that. People just, they're going to hire you based on trust, not a list of services that you've got. So just like I said, the main purpose of the website really is to get that conversation happening. You don't want to put this huge list of services in the way of doing that. You just want to get that conversation started. And on that page, and really throughout the whole content of your website, you should try and avoid jargon. Jargon is always a mistake in marketing, and use very basic language. As I mentioned before, really the best way you can sell your services is through things like case studies and testimonials. Show an outcome that happened. In other words, what you try and do is, you probably heard the phrase, you sell the sizzle, not the steak, and so you're selling the you know, you're selling the features, sorry, selling the benefits and not the features. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about content and blogging because, you know, basically what I've been saying so far is keep the content really, really simple on your website. And that would be true of things like the home page, the about page, the services page. But one place where you might have a bit more depth to your content would be somewhere like the blog on your website. And so, you know, having what I would call expert content on your website can be really beneficial. You know, going back to this idea of building trust and credibility, someone can come onto your website and see that, you know, you're writing about you know, topics that meet their kind of pain points, then that's something that can help build that trust and credibility. And the type of content that works best is what I would call business advisory content. I would certainly say avoid compliance or tax content. You know, most business owners, they're not interested in that stuff. That's why they're hiring you, and they certainly don't want to read about it. You know, I always joke that probably, you know, you don't want to read half of that stuff, so why would your clients want to read about it? The content that they want to read about is stuff that meets their pain points. So, you know, if you did want to write a blog post, a great place to start is think, you know, what are the questions you always get asked by clients? What are the things that really bother them, that keep them awake at night? And write about those, because if that's what bothers your clients, that's, you know, sure to be what bothers other business owners too, and that can attract them to you. You know, and if you don't want to write that stuff yourself, there's you know, there's ways to get that content written, you know, through maybe hiring a freelancer. You know, there's obviously specialist companies like Bizink, and you can get content created probably for a lot less than you think. So, you know, a blog is a good place to put content. Other types of content that you might want to put on the site beyond that would be what I call partner content. So, you know, you're a Sage accountant and you work with some of their software products. You know, it could be really worthwhile to have a page on your website, you know, outlining that software and its benefits and how you can help a business with that. So obviously you'll want a contact page on your website. Now, the first thing I'd say about the contact page is that you don't want that to be the only way people can contact you. Like I showed you that site before, in their header, they had the phone numbers, contact buttons, all kinds of different ways for people to get in touch. But still, you know, you're going to want this page for people to get in touch. Now, what I would do is, like I mentioned before, give people lots of ways that they can get in touch with you. So that would be obviously email and phone are the kind of basics. You'll also want, I would say, an online form on there. So, you know, a contact us form. Reason for that is that, you know, say somebody's on their phone, that makes it a lot easier for them to send you a message quickly, where they don't want to necessarily open up, you know, their email and that kind of thing. And you know, there's other things that you might have on there, like live chat or appointment booking. We're going to cover off those in just a minute. The other thing that I'd put on your contact page, bit of an essential really, is a map. And obviously that's so people can find you. But you know, if you embed a Google map onto your website, which is fairly straightforward, and you know, your web development team would certainly be able to do that for you. You'll want that on the page. So not just for people to find you, but also because that links to your Google business listing, and that can help with your search engine ranking as well. So always include a map on the, if it's not on the contact page, somewhere on the website. So look, I've outlined there what we see as a very simple and basic content structure for the best websites. Now you're probably going to think that's probably quite similar to my website, and that's good. I hope it is. We've actually found that the simplest websites tend to work the best. Simple websites, simple structure, so a home page, an about page, some case studies and testimonials, very simple services page, and a contact page. Done well, that structure just is really good. You might put some depth in there, like I mentioned, with a blog or some kind of expert content, and maybe some partner content as well. As I mentioned, from like a Sage page, for example. You don't want to complicate things too much, and so I think having that simple structure ideal. There's some other little things to put on the website that can really turn it from being sort of just like everyone else's website to a website that can bring you in some leads. So what I wanted to talk to you about was what I call lead magnets. So before I get into what a lead magnet is and how you can create one, there's a pretty alarming fact that most visitors to accountants' websites will never get in touch with you. Most of the people visiting your site will never get in touch, and I know that will be the experience for most of you, because that's just the nature of the profession. Is that people, they procrastinate before they choose an accountant. They take a long time to make that decision. I keep using the Amazon.com example, but it's not like an e-commerce website where people just come along and impulse buy what you're offering. So most people won't get in touch. So how do we turn the traffic that you get to your website into clients if people aren't getting in touch? Well, the answer to that is lead magnets. And what a lead magnet is, it's basically an exchange of value. You give away something valuable in return for something else valuable. Now, what I would suggest that is you give away some content on your website, and in return you get a visitor's email address. And why is that so valuable? Well, that means that if you have their email address, you can keep talking to them, and that means that when they kind of become ready to engage an accountant, that you can be top of mind. So that's a really, really important thing to have on your website that can turn it from being just an online brochure into something that can generate leads for you. So I'll show you an example. This is on the home page of one of our clients, and we created this business plan course, and which includes a free business plan template for them. So people come to their site, and they can enter their email address, get a free business plan template, because we know that's something that's really popular with small business owners. They want to write a plan, they want a template. A lot of people Google that all the time, and then they get a 7-part course on how to write that. So there's a really good value exchange going on there, where the accountant gets the email address, and that the person who signed up gets this content, which is really useful to them, and is doing that building of trust and credibility that I've said is so important in your marketing. So I would really recommend trying to get a lead magnet on your site, trying to find a piece of valuable content that you can create that will resonate with your audience, with your prospects, and that you can offer in return for their email address. And then when you've got that email address, you'll want to obviously keep sending them emails. That the kind of marketing word for that is nurturing. We're trying to nurture that lead until they're kind of sales ready. And that point, often we always want people to buy when we want clients, right? But the reality is people buy when they want to, and often with with accounting, that just means a bit of a waiting game, because it might be 3 months before they're ready, it might be 6 months, it might be 2 years. the sales cycle for you is very long. And that's why having their email address and keeping in touch, not trying to sell too hard, just sending them useful information over time is a really useful and valuable thing to do. So moving on, I'm going to talk really briefly about design, because I think that design is something that's probably a lot less important than you think in the web design process. So I certainly don't mean that you should have a kind of shabby and poor looking website. What I mean is that I see a lot of firms spend way too much on design and not enough on a good website structure and content, or things like a lead magnet. So what I would say is that a good design is fine. You're not a graphic design business, you're not a kind of creative business where people are going to be hugely judgmental about how your website looks. Good content is always going to be more important than great design. So if you have a certain, we all have a limited budget, right? You've got a limited budget to get a website done. Don't go and splash all of that into the design element. It's pretty easy now to get a good looking website that doesn't cost the earth. So we could talk all day about design. I'm not going to go into the details. It's a very subjective topic, but just having a good, modern, clean looking website is fine. If you have extra dollars, I would say put those into marketing and into content. That is going to give you more bang for your buck than a really flashy design. So a few other things that we really need to cover off. The first one of those is that having a mobile-friendly website is essential now. Since April 2015, Google does not rank websites that aren't mobile-friendly in their mobile listings. So just to make exactly clear what that is, if your website isn't mobile-friendly, and I'll tell you how to test for that in just a second, if someone searches on a mobile, you won't appear in Google. Now that's really bad, because now over 50% of all searches in Google are from mobile devices, like phones. Think about it, some of you will have kids and their primary internet device is their phone. Some people do all their business on their phone. So if your website isn't mobile and friendly, you don't exist on Google. Which is a big issue. Now to test that, there's something that Google have called their mobile friendly test. So if you put Google mobile friendly test into Google, that will come up, or I'm going to send that link out to you after the webinar so that you can do that test. And if you fail that test, then I would highly recommend going ahead and trying to get your website made mobile. Different ways to do that. Probably the best is using what's called responsive design. That's a sort of a technical term for a way of building a website that just adapts to different screen sizes. It's pretty standard now. I would be massively surprised if any web designer didn't build a responsive website as standard. Certainly if they were trying to charge you extra for that, I would be looking elsewhere for a web designer, because it's very basic stuff these days. And if your website isn't mobile friendly, I would also say it's probably easier to get a redesign than to try and retrofit mobile friendliness onto an existing site. So another thing that Google has dropped on us all as as website owners is this year they now, require is the wrong word, but they've made it kind of pretty much a requirement that you need a secure certificate on your website. So this is pretty technical, but basically there's a thing called an SSL certificate, and that's when when you see a website and it's got a little padlock or it says secure in the top left of your browser, that means that the traffic between you and that website is encrypted, which is a good thing, right? That's quite important. And since earlier this year, Google now will show insecure next to your website address if you don't have a secure certificate on the front and the back of your website. And I noticed that Firefox have started doing that as well. So what that means is you really need to get a secure certificate, which doesn't cost that much, maybe 20-50 bucks a year, but it's pretty important. Now, the actual risk of someone hacking your site based on you not having this is not that great, but it's not a bad thing that Google are trying to do this. It's a good measure that sites can employ, and we have this now as standard on all of our websites. So go and ask your website developer about that. Reason why I think it's so important for accountants is that you're dealing in an area where if you're dealing with people's personal finances, trust is obviously really important. And if they go to your site and Google's suddenly saying insecure next to your website address, it's not a good look. Like I say, your website isn't really. Don't be stressing that your website suddenly become super insecure because Google's saying that. It hasn't, and websites have been working perfectly fine for sort of 20 years without certificates. But it is a good thing that they're suggesting, and it's definitely worth you having a look at. So reporting and testing, the web gives us unprecedented reporting about how our marketing performs, and what that means is that using the data that we get, we can refine and improve our marketing. And a great free tool that you can use for doing that with your website is called Google Analytics. A lot of you will probably have that plugged into your website. If not, talk to your web company about it, because you can set up a free account. It takes a couple of minutes to do, and then you just plug in a bit of code to your website, and that means you get really rich and insightful data about who's visiting your site, what pages they're using, all kinds of things in there. Probably too much data, to be honest. It can get quite confusing, the amount of data in there, but the headline stuff, very, very interesting. So that that gives you the opportunity to obviously report, and you can also do tests. You can even go, what if I change this, try 2 versions of this page and see which one works best. So that's a huge topic in its own right. There's other tools you could use, but Google Analytics is the basic minimum reporting tool. And when I say minimum, actually, it's hugely powerful. So before I wrap up, the final thing that I wanted to talk about was just some tools and extras that can give your website a bit of a boost. And there's 2 that I wanted to focus on that I've seen work really, really well on accounting websites. The first one is appointment booking apps. So you've maybe used these kind of things. Some examples would be Acuity, Timely, or Calendly. If you go on the bizinkonline.com, book a demo, and click on there, you'll see it pops up a kind of like a little app in a window. And it will be in your time zone, and then you can choose times to talk to one of our sales team. Now, that was an amazing thing that we added to our site. We put that on there, and the amount of demos that we got booked went up by 1/3. So just because it was easier for people to book a demo, we got 1/3 more demos booked. So that was a massive win. I think it also looks really professional that the first interaction somebody has with your business is through a kind of slick app like that. Because what's the alternative, right? Is that they email in, oh, can we meet Tuesday? Oh, sorry, I'm busy Tuesday. What about Wednesday? No, that doesn't work for me. And you have this kind of back and forth email conversation. It's pretty annoying. And actually that conversation that led to another benefit that we didn't expect from adding a booking app, and that was that we saved about 10 minutes of admin time per booking. You know, we might be booking 40, 50 meetings through the site every month. That's a huge amount of time saved and all that messing about. So I can't speak highly enough of those appointment booking apps. I can send some links in the follow-up email to those ones that I mentioned. Certainly worth checking out. You know, Calendly, for example, is free. So, you know, free is a really nice price point, right? And you can have that on your site, embed it in there, and get all of those benefits. The other one, which you know, it's maybe not for everyone, is live chat. But I've seen that working really, really well. And, you know, given that the webinar, I'm trying to tell you about what we've seen on the best sites, a lot of them would have a live chat box. So that's basically where, you know, usually in the bottom right-hand corner of a site, you can go on, and if you're visiting whichever website, people can, you know, chat, kind of like instant message to you. Now, the reservations that I have with that, people say to me, well, we don't want to, you know, we don't want to man that all the time. It's, you know, what if people are asking us weird questions or whatever? A few things I'd say on that is that, you know, if you're at your desk all the time, well, it's just sitting there open. You're not suddenly going to have lots of people coming through. But if it's only one person a month, and they might not have called, that's a potential lead. So it goes back to that thing of saying, let people get in touch with you in the way they want to get in touch. So it's just casting your net a bit wider. And you know, if you a bigger firm and you've got a receptionist, you know, they're there answering the phone and doing emails. Why not have this other method of communication there? So, you know, some really good live chat options like Zendesk Chat, Olog, or vCita. I can send some links out for those as well. Some of those are free or very low cost and quite easy to get on your website. So, just going to sum up before we do questions. So, anatomy of a really great accounting website. The two essentials that you need before anything is to have a mobile-friendly site and a secure certificate on your website. And that's, you know, Google's kind of made that essential for us, which is a good thing. You know, that they're making websites more secure and easier to use. So we've got to go with that. Don't spend all your budget on design when you're getting a new website. You know, content and marketing, particularly a lead magnet, is more important. So, you know, I'm really not trying to say you should get a bad design here. I'm just saying that, you know, good design is not that expensive these days. You don't need, you know, top level design. Across the whole website, less is more. The way you sell is conversations, is meetings, right? And so don't look at your website as like an e-commerce website. You know, you're not going to be having people sign up directly from your website. I mean, I do know a few firms who have a model like that, but they're very much the exception rather than the rule. So what that means is you want to get out of the way of visitors to your site. Let them just get in touch with you. Do the bare minimum to sort of build that trust and credibility, and then get out of the way so they can get in touch. And so to do that, you want to make it stupidly easy for them to get in touch with you. Phone number on every page, contact button, you know, a booking app. Like I said, I would highly recommend that. Live chat, everything you can, make it really easy for them to get in touch with you. People are lazy, right, online, so you've got to make it really easy for them. Lead magnets, you know, I gave you the reasons why, you know, very few people will get in touch, even though we've got to make it stupidly easy. Not that many people will. You're not going to change that. That's not because your website's bad. It's not because your firm is bad. That's just the nature of how people buy, if that's the word, engage accountants, is that, you know, they procrastinate and take time to make that decision. So we want to grab their details and then keep talking to them. And then when they're ready to buy, you're going to be top of mind. And, you know, look, test and refine. You know, the web gives us unprecedented opportunities to see how our marketing is performing. you've got that data. Make sure you use it to keep improving your website and getting a better result. And finally, there are some apps which can add value if you've got those basics done. And the two that I would say look at first would be appointment booking apps and live chat. Not essentials, but I think both have some really good upsides that make them worth a look at. So I'm going to wrap up there and answer your questions. Feel free to keep sending them in through the questions window. I think Liz is going to come back on and ask those questions of me. You can see if you need more information about Sage Accountant Solutions, the details of the websites are on screen there. And I should also mention that myself and the Bizink team have created an ebook for this webinar series, which covers what I've been talking about today and also the topics in the other webinars, so email marketing and social media. And that's going to be available. We'll send that out in an email after the session today. So just leaves me to say thanks very much to Sage for letting me host this webinar. It's been great to talk to you all today. Thanks for coming along, and I'm going to stick around and answer all of your questions.
Thanks, Matt. That was great, and I'm sure a lot of our attendees will be putting that content to work right away. We do have a couple of questions for you. Cool. The first one I have is, how do I get my site to rank better in Google?
Okay, that's a big one. I thought we'd be getting that one. So the process of improving your ranking in search engines is called search engine optimization, or you've probably heard the term SEO being thrown about. Now, SEO is a huge topic which you could talk about for weeks, and it's not like a how can I put it? It's not something that everyone agrees on. In fact, there's a lot of disagreement about what will work and what won't in SEO. And in fact, some people even think that SEO is dead, that there's not a lot you can do to push your website up anymore. But there are some basics. So the first thing to understand is that you don't optimize your website, you optimize pages, and you optimize a page for a certain phrase. So if you think about the way people use Google, they will go in and type accountants, your area, they'll do a local search pretty much all the time. So what you're trying to do is, if whatever your town is or your city, you want to sort of have a page that's based on that topic. So if I'll just go accountants New York, right? I mean, we'll talk about why that would be really hard to do in a second. But if someone types that in, you're going to want a page. The title of that page is accountants New York. That phrase is in the link, and that phrase is mentioned several times through the content of that page. And so what you're trying to do is fit the page to the phrase that people are using. That will give you a chance of kind of ranking. The other thing that you want to do is try and get lots of people linking to your website. So can you get listed in local directories? It's why social media works really well for search engines, is that it means that people are linking back to your website. But overall, I'd say it's a hugely technical topic that I don't know why, but lots of accountants and bookkeepers seem to get bogged down in it. And I don't think it's as important as people think in terms of online marketing, in that, don't get me wrong, it can work, but there's other things that can work a lot better. And I would say those things like social media and email marketing, like we're going to cover in the other sessions, can deliver you far better results. Because I know you've all got very limited time to do marketing and limited budget. And so if you've got those limitations, it obviously makes sense to spend them on the marketing that will deliver the most results. And I will say that isn't SEO. There's a lot of other things that you can do, even offline, that will get better results than that. So I think the main thing I'd say with SEO, create a page for the phrases, or it could be one page, it could be several pages for the phrases people use to find your firm. Um, Beyond that, I wouldn't worry about it too much, and think about other types of marketing. So like I say I could talk about that all day, and it's a huge topic, but hopefully that covers the basics.
That's that's great. Thanks, Matt. I have another question about apps. So someone asked, some accountants have apps for their firms. Are these worthwhile for me to get?
Um, so I think what that probably means is, like, where people have a branded app for their firm. The Yeah, sure. It can be worthwhile, but I think a lot of those things, it's just duplicating the role of your website. So, that I've seen firms where they say, we've got an app here that you can download. Will your clients really be bothered to get another app on their phone and interact with you like that? I think put your focus into your website, and do that instead.
Perfect. Thanks. Another question, just a simple one. What are landing pages? If you could clarify that.
Um, so landing pages can either be something that you have on your website, or sort of sit outside of your website. And so, an example of a landing page could be like you're running an event, and you want to get registrations. So instead of just having that as a normal website, a website page, you have a really focused page which was just about that event. So another name for landing pages is squeeze pages, because they try and squeeze a user to take an action. So it's like a really simple web page that tends to not have any menu on it or anything like that, and you'll often see them for trying to get people to sign up for an event or download an ebook or something like that. So they can work quite well, and you can either have them on your own website, like we have a landing page builder in all of our websites, or you can there are specialist platforms like Unbounce or Lead Pages, which you can build them with.
Great. I've never heard the term squeeze page before, so I'm learning too. We have another question. You already touched on this, and I think you'll touch on this even more in one of the additional webcasts we have coming up. But does social media work for accountants?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it certainly does. Yeah, look, anything done badly won't work, and that's often the problem. It needs to be done well. Hopefully that's kind of obvious, but yeah, it does massively. Look, I was hosting a webinar last night, which was about Facebook for accountants, and the host of that webinar has just done a social media campaign for a firm in the UK, and in 3 weeks they've got £25,000 worth of new billing. So what's that? I don't know, the pound's not worth very much anymore. That's where I'm from, the UK originally, but since Brexit it's dropped off. But that's probably worth, I don't know, 17 grand a year or something like that in dollars. That's just off 3 weeks off a Facebook campaign. So yeah,
Wow.
it does really work. I mean, yeah, I think Facebook, really important platform. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, some of those things probably less important, but yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn, really important, and we're going to be covering off that stuff in the final webinar of the series.
Perfect. I don't have any other questions. I don't know, Matt, if you have any that popped up.
Yeah, there's quite a few that have come in through the question panel. So Anita's asking, do we have a recording of the webinar? Yeah, we do. We've recorded the webinar, and we're going to be sending that out in an email, probably either later today or tomorrow. Carlos is asking, what are the different packages and costs with Bizink? Happy to send those to you, Carlos. I won't go through them now. Um, so Sherry, that's a good question. What percentage of income would you suggest to sort of make up your website and your advertising? Really hard question. You know, I, I don't think you can necessarily put a dollar figure on it or even a percentage. The thing about modern marketing is, in the past we kind of had advertising that we could pay for, um, or maybe sponsorship. So, you could really go, okay, this is the dollar value, this is my return on investment. I think with modern marketing, there's a big element where it doesn't really cost that much in terms of dollars, but there's a time investment to that. And you can kind of shortcut that time investment by spending dollars. So example would be like writing a blog post, right? You can write a blog post yourself, but it might take half a day, or you could pay a writer, a few $100 to do that for you. What's your time worth versus, getting somebody else to do it. So it's really hard for me to give you a number on that. I mean, this isn't really going to help us, but the thing that I would say is that there's no such thing as cheap or expensive marketing. There's only good or bad marketing. It's like if you, ran a campaign on Facebook advertising, for example. That's something we'll talk about in the last webinar. If you spend, I got a client who did that. He spent $600 and he got back 12 grand of business from that in 2 months. Pretty good, right? The question I'd be saying to him is like, well, why don't you spend $1,200 and then maybe you get double the result? So it's really hard to say. Different things work in different ways. But I think the important thing is to have some form of marketing budget, and try and stick to that. I think, what I'm going to try and do in this webinar series is show you the things that work best. I'm going to suggest that's going to be social media and email marketing, are two of the things that will deliver the best return on investment for you. Another question from Grace, which is, about a lead magnet. This is a really good question. Is, if you're obtaining someone's email address, how do you kind of address the anti-spam legislation rules? So, that's a classic example where you're getting someone's permission to market to them. You can spell it out that you say, okay, if you download this lead magnet, we might send you some emails. And so if they sign up, they've seen that, they've agreed to it, that's absolutely fine. Then the only other thing that you need to make sure of is that there's a very clear unsubscribe link in all of the emails that you send out. So you don't want to force people to keep receiving the emails. They must be able to unsubscribe. But if you do those two things, then that would work. And I think that Lucy's saying there's some very strict privacy laws in terms of collecting and using email information. Again, that's fine. I mean, look, go and visit any number of websites and you can see people using this tactic of lead magnets all over the place. Download an ebook or sign up for something. It's legitimate to send people emails if those emails are about that same topic and they can unsubscribe.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
No worries at all. I don't see any more questions coming in there, unless you had any more questions, Liz.
I don't, but please, if anyone does have questions that come up, you can feel free to reach out to myself or Matt, and we'll be sure to get them answered. And don't forget that we have 2 additional webcasts that Matt mentioned in September to complete the series. Our next one is on September 13th on effective email marketing, and then our last one would be on September 27th on social media. And I think from those questions and some of the things that Matt touched on, those 2 topics will be very good and very useful. So you'll be receiving those email invites, and I think you should be signed up for those already when you signed up for this one. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Matt, and we'll be happy to talk to you and work with you. And we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone. Been really great.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.